Hey, welcome to this video. Today we're going to be making 2 trays, and these were custom orders for a friend. I absolutely adore doing abstract art, so let's get into it. So I usually plan a script for these videos, but I haven't for this one. I'm just going to wing it and talk about whatever is authentically inspiring me in this moment of recording this voiceover. And I think right now I'm super inspired by where my life is at compared to where it was a year ago. I had a tibial plateau fracture, a lot of you know that, and I had 2 surgeries, 2 hours of physio every single day for months. It was a really hard injury to get through. It's called the career ender for a reason. It's like self-explanatory. Was possibly going to end my dance career, and for most athletes it's kind of like the end. So I had to work really hard to ever be able to dance again. It's also super rare to break this bone. It's funny because I've never broken a bone in my life, and I had to go and break one of the hardest ones to do. My x-ray tech one day said, "How did you break this bone? I've never seen a young person break it before. Just older people with osteoporosis where there's like a reason this bone would break." So it was pretty discouraging sometimes. I mean, it's kind of funny. I didn't take that personally. I was like, yeah, I don't know what happened. My femur crashed down on my tibia and broke the top of my tibia, the surface of my knee joint. So anyways, that was that injury. But last year, heartbroken, 30 pounds heavier, bedridden for months and months on end, not knowing what the future held. And it was really scary. And it's just crazy how different my life is now a year later. And almost everything I manifested so far has come true. I dreamed of working with Art Resin one day, the resin brand I've been working with since I started. And then they invited me to come work with them. Like, how did that even happen? And then I had this dream of working at my dance studio that I grew up dancing at, and my dance teachers randomly, after 6-7 years of graduating from the studio, I've had some contact with them, but not a whole lot, and they reached out to me and asked me to come back and help teach and work at the desk and all of that. So it's crazy that these things just happen, and that just proves when you're manifesting, you don't have to worry about how it happened. I didn't have to worry about how are my dance teachers gonna ask me to come back, and it just happened. And Art Resin randomly DM me on Instagram one day. It's just insane how life can change so much, and I want this video to just be that encouragement. Use me as an example that things can get so much better, and when we're in the darkest points of our lives, which is what I would say 2021 was, then a year later my life is the best it's ever been, and I'm the most self-aware and confident. I feel so much better. I've worked really hard on my weight loss, and I feel really good again. I can walk, and I am actually dancing again at Canada's Wonderland. I switched to Haunt, and I have opening night tonight as I'm recording this, and I'm in a full dance show, which I never knew if I would ever even dance again. I just can't believe that a year ago I didn't know if I would ever dance again, and now I'm pretty much making most of my living off of dance, either from teaching, working at the studio, or dancing at Haunt. Life can get so much better if we just hold on and let the darkest moments pass through us. I honestly didn't stress too hard when my leg was broken. I couldn't live in the what ifs. I didn't actually think about it that much. I had moments where I was like, oh my gosh, if I can't dance again, what will I do? Dance is my heart and my soul. It's my whole passion in life. But I didn't sit in the what ifs very much. And I'm glad I didn't, because I am able to dance. So imagine I wasted all that time worrying if I would or not. So now let me talk a little bit about what I'm doing here. I love doing abstract art. Basically, I did this layer, and now I'm going to put a clear coat on top just so the mold was more full and the tray was thicker. But my tip for kind of getting that 3D effect with resin is just using pigments, alcohol inks, use all different types of colors because it gives it that layered effect without actually having to do multiple layers. And when I'm moving the colors around, I just make sure to move them so much because the gold alcohol ink, which is that kind of sparkly color all around, it likes to group together. So I just like to make sure it's super spread because I think that's what gives it the marble effect. And now this is the gold paint I use. I'm going to be painting the edges of the tray. I did about 5 layers of paint. This was super time consuming and meticulous, but I like to make sure that it's very pigmented. And I've talked a lot about people saying your work is overpriced. Look how much effort and time goes into this. This was hours and hours of work and so much resin and materials used. That's edited down into about 5 minutes. Also days of work because there's 24 hours in between each layer that I did. So yeah, then I'm sitting here and painting each layer, letting each layer dry. It's just a very time consuming thing. So yeah, if people ever say art is overpriced, then just remind them that this is a lot of time and energy that goes into this. And it's energy that I love putting into things, but it's still my time regardless. I bought these gold handles off of Amazon and I first tried to super glue them on, and super glue usually comes in clutch for me. I use them for my phone grips, I use it for my phone grips. I love how it works, but it did not want to glue these handles on. Although most art and projects I do is a bunch of trial and error. So I wiped off that super glue. I knew this was not going to work, and I had this idea to try and use UV resin to connect the handles. So that is what I tried next, and it worked, thank goodness. So I did one layer to attach it on, and then I did another layer of UV resin around the bottom just to make it super secure. And I set these trays out in the sunlight for a couple of hours just to make sure that it was going to be very solid. So yeah, I just cured it under the UV light for a couple of rounds and then switched it to the other side as needed. Sorry, just to be clear, I did the UV light for a couple of rounds and then put it in the sunlight after just to make sure that it was going to be super cured. I repeated this process for the black and gold tray. Also, let me know down below which one you like better, the purple or the black and gold tray. I'm very curious to know. And I'm not just using some YouTuber tactic to bring up engagement. I actually genuinely love feedback, because now that I've started making wire wrap jewelry, so many people seem to pick the same bead and color combination. I think it's so fascinating to see what people choose, because it's usually not what you think it's going to be. The last step to finish off this tray is to varnish the paint. This is just to make sure that it stays on, and I used a gloss varnish for that all around the edges. And finally, we are done after many days and hours of work. Here's the final product. I know the UV resin kind of leaves a big glob of clear stuff around the handle. I personally don't really mind. You can always cover that with something, but I didn't think it was a big deal. I was just happy they finally stayed on. I love that the pearl pigments give it a very sparkly finish in certain lights, and I also think that resin is so pretty when it's reflective. It reminds me of marble. Obsessed with the final product, and now it's time to ship it out to the person who ordered these. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it encouraging, and I also hope to see you in my next one. Bye!